Hello, John.
Hello, Oliver.
And so you've been going around the country, and you were in Munster, I believe, in the last week or two.
That's right. In the last 2 or 3 weeks, really. This past week, I was in. Anyway, I'm going to be just talking about my travels during October. So I've really been concentrating on Munster, parts of Clare, Limerick. I did the churches in Limerick, and parts of Limerick, and on the way down towards Killarney. So that's where I've been for the past month of October so far. I'll be doing a bit more next week, not in Munster but in other areas that I haven't done. This past week particularly, in parts of Kerry, down as far as Bantry and Skibbereen and these places, and then the churches as far as Cork City. I didn't have time to do Cork City because I didn't leave until Tuesday, and with the travelling and one thing and another, I did a fair amount of work and learned a lot during my trip, particularly in this past week into Kerry and Cork, parts of Cork. One of the things that I noticed in many churches is the exposition of the Blessed Eucharist in churches, and quite a few people in adoration, because it's a good gift to have the exposition of the Blessed Eucharist, and people are there for an hour, because the famous broadcaster, radio and TV, Archbishop Fulton John Sheen, who was responsible for 100,000 or more conversions because of the many years of his broadcasts. He said that every day from his ordination he spent an hour in adoration in the church in the front of the Blessed Sacrament in the tabernacle. This is one of the great gifts we have as Catholics, that the body, blood, soul and divinity of our divine Saviour is in the tabernacle. All the tabernacles in every Catholic church, and Archbishop Fulton John Sheen emphasised that. I noticed it quite widespread in Catholic churches in Munster. I was very pleased to see it. And I also noticed in these churches that there was the Pieta, which is an example of the famous Pieta Michelangelo in the Vatican did when he painted the seal, and he was also a sculptor, and he did what they call the Pieta, which is our Blessed Mother holding Jesus after he come down from the cross. It's a very moving replica of that sad event. It did move you to tears, and I saw it in quite a few churches in Kerry and West Cork. I was absolutely pleased, and I lit a candle in front of that and touched the face of Jesus.
Very good.
It put tears to your eyes. And he was in one of the churches that I was in going down in that towards Munster, and would be part of Leinster. There was a 1400-year-old Pieta in the Church of the Immaculate Conception of our Blessed Mother in Kilcormac, County Offaly, which is between Tullamore and Burr in County Offaly. It's halfway there. And funny enough, I passed through it and was looking for the Catholic Church, but I couldn't find it. So it was slightly off to the right of the as you go into Kilcormac going towards Burr. So I visited on Friday of this week and saw this 400-year-old Pieta, our Blessed Mother holding our Saviour Jesus. It was done more than 400 years ago, but it was rescued during the Cromwellian persecution of the Catholic churches and shrines and monasteries that occurred in this country. Men rescued it and hid it. And then when that persecution was over, which lasted for hundreds of years, that same persecution, it's put up in the church. What a marvellous what a marvellous pieta that Kilcormac, the Church of the Immaculate Conception of our Blessed Mother, has. It's so moving. I lit a candle there and put more into it than what the amount was required in thanksgiving for seeing such a beautiful pieta. I've had the great good luck as I've planted the seed for the Christian TV Ireland project in these churches to visit and see memorials to the famine victims, to the people that went before, to the martyrs. In one church in Killarney, the Franciscan church, there's a relic of Dom Donald O'Sullivan in the 1400 and whatever it was, or he was a martyr during that period, and he had gone to Scariff Island, which is off, and he was beheaded by the Cromwellian. They murdered and innocent people that bore no arms, men, women and children. They butchered. And it's such a sad thing that it's not often spoken about, but it is remembered in these places. In one church that I was in, there's a memorial to the famine victims at the side of the road with a cross, and a really good memorial to them. I said a prayer for them, lit a candle, and I did the Stations of the Cross in that church, the 14 Stations of the Cross, in memory and of the sacrifice that they paid during that despicable period when 1 million of our ancestors was starved to death when there was plenty of food being exported. So all these things made a deep impression of the practice of the Catholic faith that I see in parts of the country. One event that I saw also, because of the shortage of vocations to the priesthood, is the fact that priests now, and are getting on in years, some of them should have been retired, they have to do 2 or 3 churches, and they're not able for it. And I come across churches that was closed because there is no mass, only maybe once a week. The churches are closed, so people can't go in and to the place of the Blessed Sacrament, or to say prayers, or the Station of the Cross, because people have to nourish their souls. So when the church is closed, what can they do? They are disenfranchised, to use that word, or they're not able to, they have to do it in the sanctuary of their own homes, and one hopes that they do. But it's a very sad affair that Catholic churches that was always open, and they're still open, but quite a few of them are closed. Not quite a few, but several. Too many for my sake, in places where there would have been, those churches would have been packed years ago. So this is part of the stuff that I come across, and I noticed that they haven't moved with the times in quite a few churches. They don't have to have all these divisions that they have and limiting the number. Mm-hmm. And that kind of thing. That's been done away with for the past couple of months, and churches now, in the one that I'm in, the parish I'm in County Meath, all those things have been done away with. So there's none of these divisions, but they still exist in many places in the country, including cathedrals, which is absolutely amazing that they haven't been removed. And I think they're so obsessed with this COVID that they forget that God is in charge, not this.
That's right.
This is a control mechanism, quite frankly, in my book, and it's up to doctors to treat viruses as they treat viruses of everything else. We've got injections for this COVID, which according to the people is deadly. We don't know how deadly it is because not that many people have died from it, proportion to people that died from other causes. Mm-hmm. I understand there's more suicides in this country and then there has been from suicides than from the deaths from COVID, mm-hmm. and stuff like that. So, be that as it may, these are observations, and talking to people, concerned Catholics that I've spoken to, they are concerned about this control, and they would like for it to be gradually removed so that it could go about in freedom. It'll take some of them a long time to get over the fear that they've suffered. So this is what I've discovered talking to people, because anyone that I can come across, and I come across quite a few, I hear what they have to say. I'm not dictating, they're telling me, and I'm taking it on board and telling them that their views will be represented. Lay people, Catholics throughout the country, older folk especially, that tell me now that nobody is listening to them. Well, the Christian TV Ireland project will be listening to them because they have the wisdom.
Absolutely.
And that will be encouraged, and to show respect, and to try and bring back the lost sheep. There's too many lost sheep. I don't know what's wrong with them, that they're not to practice their Catholic faith because their souls in grave risk. So suffice to say that I've planted the seed in many churches in Kerry. Funny enough, I couldn't do all the places because I'd want to be down there for 4 or 5 days just to do Kerry alone. But I did enough, and in West Cork, and in the towns that I passed through, as far as Cork City, I just didn't have time to do Cork City, although I intended to do Cove and the cathedrals in Cork City, which I believe are on the north side of the cathedral, on the north side of Cork. Cork is a very hilly place. So all I can report is that the faith is still alive in the country, although a lot of what's necessary to bring people back to the practical Catholic faith, they want to sort of preach about the sacrament of confession. Sometimes they're calling it reconciliation. They're calling it names that it's not true. It's the sacrament of confession, and people are not availing of that sacrament. It's not even practiced by many priests because they're not able to have the time. They can do it by request, but some places it is at set times, particularly in the Franciscan churches. So people where there's a Franciscan church can avail of it, but in other places they can't avail of it but by request, and people don't want to kind of bother the priest that's so busy doing 2 or 3 parishes. So vocations is badly needed, and we in the Christian TV Ireland project that we're on, that will be one of the major issues we'll be concentrating on, to bring back the devotional aspects to the practice of the Catholic faith, and it will get vocations and it will get people back to the practice of the Catholic faith, because their souls are in grave danger by missing Mass.
Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you very much, Albert.